Hey guys, I'm Danny, the electronic fisherman. So in today's video, we'll be talking about Humminbird Down Imaging. What we've done is we've put together 10 commonly asked questions and we've answered those. Hopefully it'll help you guys out. Let's get after it. So down imaging is a powerful tool to use in our sonar toolbox. It emits a signal down and out from the transducer up to 75 degrees. The signal is wide side to side, but it's very thin front to back and does not extend forward of the transducer. So down imaging pulse originates in the bottom of the transducer. And most of your side imaging transducers, you've got one right in the middle. The piezo, or the element, is right in the center, and it emits or sends out a sound frequency down and out 75 degrees in 455 and in the megahertz range. So there's really three frequencies available for mega down imaging. You've got 455, 800, and of course 1.2 megahertz. So really I focus primarily on 455 and 1.2 megahertz. The majority of the time I don't really mess with 800 that much. So what I find beneficial on 455 is that I see fish better at 455 in the down imaging, especially in the Gen 3 and the Gen 4 model units of the helixes. The mega imaging gives me better clarity and definition, but I just don't get the depth that I do with 455. So in down imaging, the main thing is take your cursor. When you activate your cursor and you move over to an object on the screen that you want to lay a waypoint on, if your cursor is activated, you'll have to push the mark button 2 times in a helix to apply a waypoint. 1 time in a helix if you just run over the object and you don't have your cursor activated. Yes, very possible. You've got 2 different cone configurations there. You've got one that's a conical, which is 2 beam, and one is fan-like. So with the 2D conical beam, the traditional beam, depending on depth, you might see a fish out kind of in front of the boat or kind of behind the boat, whereas the thin fan-like beam would not have pinged the fish yet, so it's very possible to see a fish in one or the other. So when you set the upper and lower range settings on your DI view, it just makes for a more compressed, enhanced image on the screen. Always remember though, when you get ready to navigate, to change those settings back, because you're telling the screen to quit looking at certain limits. So you're saying don't look down to 10 feet and only look down to 30 feet. So when you get ready to navigate around the lake, remember that you've taken those sonar returns that you've deemed unnecessary and done away with them. So down imaging and side imaging will both get an image with the boat sitting still. It works so much better though if the boat is moving and moving forward slowly. So yes, you can obtain an image. It will be somewhat skewed, but it's always best to scan with the boat moving in DI and SI. There are no best settings. You can start out at the factory default settings that Humminbird sets up. It's always going to take some adjustment on your part, whether that be sensitivity, contrast, colors, different things that you're going to have to make adjustments to when you move around your body of water. So let's say that you move from one pocket to the next pocket and you encounter maybe a creek run in and you've got some mud, some particulates in the water. It's quite possible that 455 might be a much better frequency to use in that, and then you might have to decrease your sensitivity a bit. So it's all about making adjustments every time that you move throughout your body of water during the day. So your scan speed and your chart speed when it relates to down imaging, the general rule is whatever your scan speed is plus 1 or 2, that's what your chart speed is going to be. So if your SOG or your speed over ground and your GPS speed is 3.4, then I'm going to set my chart speed to around 5, which just happens to be the default setting that Humminbird has set up. They've set it because it closely matches, for the majority of the time, the ping, return, and draw a lot of data sequence that you see on most units. Absolutely. So there's really two ways right off the bat, things that you can try that'll clear up the haze in the water column on your DI view. One would be your water column sensitivity. So when you go to menu, and you go to the sonar tab, the second one going left or right, and you go down, you'll see a setting that says water column sensitivity. It's at 0, so if you apply a negative number, that's going to remove some of the stuff out of the water column as far as the haze. And if you add a positive number, it's going to emphasize. So you can de-emphasize or emphasize the water column independent of the bottom. The other way is to turn on your dynamic contrast. The huge benefit of dynamic contrast is it reduces or eliminates some of the short range noise, thus clearing up the screen. So those are two things that I would try. Absolutely. Using a combination screen of 2D and DI can be very beneficial when evaluating the sonar returns. Always remember, when you're looking at your screen, that 2D and DI measure distance from the transducer, not direction. So there's really no way with DI or with 2D to determine the exact location of that fish within the sonar beam. Alright guys, that's a wrap for Down Imaging. Please follow, share, like, and subscribe. We sincerely appreciate your support. Thanks for tuning in. God bless. We're out of here.